We like to start every episode with a disclaimer that we are not professionals. Our conversations are solely based on our personal experiences, thoughts, and opinions. Nothing discussed here is meant to be taken as professional mental health or medical advice. If you have questions or need assistance, please seek the help of a licensed professional.
Discussions in this podcast may sometimes revolve around heavy material such as abuse, grooming, religious trauma, etc. Please listen with caution and prioritize your mental health first.
Welcome to Trauma Bondage, the podcast where we talk about kinks, trauma, and non-traditional lifestyles and relationships from a queer lens. We are your hosts,
Brigitte and Beth.
You just said my name. Thank you. Say my name.
I was saying it for you.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July.
That's why I'm wearing red. I just realized I'm so fucking festive.
Oh,
Not really.
I'm wearing black because I'm in mourning for this fucking country.
That's more appropriate.
Goth with my black lipstick and everything.
To be fair, I only wore red because my shirt says pussy power in red.
It's red.
And here
Your
we are.
wardrobe is only black and red. And then
Yeah,
the
those are the only two
extra
colors.
color of brown.
I mean, those are the only two colors that deserve to exist. Pink, too. Pink is good. I just won't wear it.
I don't wear pink.
No, we don't wear pink. If you do, that's fine, I guess.
You can't sit with us.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about allyship and how you can maximize your advocacy as an ally as well.
Yeah.
Not just to the LGBTQ community,
Nope.
but also to non-monogamy and kinksters like ourselves.
Yeah.
We're just all of the above wrapped into one. So, like, be nice to us.
Be
We
nice
won't be
to
nice
us.
back.
We're going to tell you how to be nice to us. And then we'll show you how we can be mean to you.
Yeah. But yeah, how you can be a better ally. Examples of allyship that we've experienced.
Yeah.
And also, like, how you can continue your allyship not in, like, environments that are, like, queer or anything like that. Like, just on your own.
Yeah,
So.
we're assuming that most of our listeners are going to be in the queer community, but we also know that a lot of them are probably not going to be.
Yeah.
So, like, as our audience grows, we want to make sure that allies feel welcome, safe, whatever.
Yeah, we want you here.
A part of the community. And
need you.
also, yeah, we literally need you.
We need you.
And we're going to tell you why. And we're going to tell you how you can best show up for queer people in your lives.
So how would you define an ally?
I would define an ally as a person who cannot necessarily personally relate to a specific identity, but they have enough empathy to see that person's identity, acknowledge it, embrace it, and support that person in whatever they want to do or whoever they are. That's kind of how I feel about it. Because I think it does not have to be specific to the LGBTQ community.
I think a lot of it comes into play with, like, any marginalized community and people who have the privilege. Like, if you are somebody who has never had a law enacted or had something that has to do with your very being and existence put into question or like have a right up for debate, then you're already in a place of privilege. So like being able to utilize your privilege and your voice to maximize experience and make things better for other people in marginalized communities makes you an ally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you consider an ally?
To put it in, like, the most, like, basic term, because obviously there's the whole, like, being there for marginalized communities and utilizing your voice, but, like, somebody who can accept you for who you are, whether or not it is something that has to do with them.
Yes.
And, like, you're not hurting anybody. I support you and I'm going to support you. And not just say, like, oh, I support you and, like, you know that they're, but actively showing that they're a safe person to go to, that no matter who you are or what you do or anything, there's somebody you can rely on that's going to show up, that's going to put in the effort,
right? That's
going to utilize their voice,
right,
for you,
right,
to no benefit of their own.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
What have been? I think we should talk about maybe some of the best examples of allyship we've had personally in our lives, and maybe some of, like, the worst.
Yeah. I have two of, like, the best ones that come to mind for me. So one is when I was first experiencing, like, my debate with my own sexuality. So I had really just started getting active into the theater community at that point.
Okay.
And I wasn't really friends with the kids in theater at my school. Like I was that floater kid that didn't have a whole lot of friends. Like I kind of had specific people, but that was about it. Like I maybe only talked to a handful of people from high school. So I didn't really have the friends. So I was doing like community theater and would connect with the adults a lot of the time. And one of them was somebody that, like, to me, even to this day, and I don't know if she knows this fully, but like I consider her more of like a sister figure to me. She's also queer, and I didn't know it during that time frame until much later, where she actually like shared it with me. And she was one of those people that, like, it didn't matter what we talked about. Like, she was somebody that I always felt like I could discuss things with. She had shown that she was reliable enough that she wasn't going to disclose the things that I talked to her about to my mother, who was always around. Yeah. Right. Which that was a dangerous space to have her around in. She just made it very clear to me that she was a safe person to talk to, and that like there was never going to be judgment. Like we'd have conversations about things about like why like I could change her opinion or mind on certain things, and she could do that with me because other perspectives was a helpful thing, especially learning because I was so young. Right. I was a teenager. But she was actually one of the first people I actually came out to. Okay. Because of the way she presented herself to me. And I think she knew about me. Yeah. Because, like, looking back, it's pretty fucking clear.
We know each other. I was going to say, gay people usually can, like, suss it out.
Yeah. And I think she probably saw how I lit up a little bit when she told me about herself and what she was going through. And so she was actually one of the first people I came out to. So that was one, like, an allyship of just having a safe person. Yeah. As a youth, a gay youth as well. Yeah. Like, a closeted, questioning gay youth.
That's super important.
And being able to come out to her and also coming out to her and not coming out to anybody else for months, if not a year later. Never told anyone, never outed me. Like, that was a safe space. Yeah. The other one's more recent for me. Okay. So I had this really good friend, one of the few people that I still am friends with from high school, and he is just the kindest human being on earth. I don't want to make the assumption that he's not part of the queer community, but he's only ever been with women. So, like, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not going to make the assumption. But recently he was making a post where this isn't something like he and I like had this discussion. It was something he did entirely on his own, where he had posted about it and I heard about it, and I was like, man, like that is somebody who knows like what it takes, but also is going to push the envelope for the community. Was flying a pride flag outside of his home, and his HOA, somebody complained, and his HOA was like, you're against the rules, you can't have anything, blah, 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 blah. So he read through all of the rules thoroughly. And one of them was like, you can have a like university, like a verified like university flag flown. So he got a pride version of it. He bought a pride version of his university's flag.
I love that.
To fly outside of his home.
That's a fucking ally.
That's an ally. That's like, it's the most minuscule little thing, but he was like, fuck you. I'm still going to do what I want, and I'm going to be within your rules. Yep. Right?
Yep.
So like,
that's incredible.
Fuck off. But like, two, HOA came back again, and they were like, you're still doing it. And he responded to them and was like, I've looked through all of these rules. None of these actually pertain because this is that. And I can provide proof, and like provided screenshots of like the verified like flag that it was from the university, everything like that. And he took it a step further and brought up all of the infractions on like American flags and stuff being flown, like everything that was like outside of that rule frame that were flown all over. And he was like, you're only discriminating against this one flag. Yeah, that is a problem. And then he took it even a step further and went through the rules a second time and realized that he could put pride flags on the interior of his home. So every single window has a pride flag, a trans flag, a Black Lives Matter flag. Amazing. And he has the university one outside of his house that is still within HOA guidelines.
Oh my God.
Right? And the thing is, he was like, a medal. He deserves everything.
That
like, he
is incredible.
The best human ever. But like, I already kind of knew he was an ally, but like that is allyship to an elevated degree. Like, that was somebody who said, no, like, I'm not going to back down, just take off my flag. I was about to say take off my shirt.
Paint a rainbow on your chest.
On your titties. I'm not going to take off the flag and just like be done with it and just be like, oh, they win again. Like he fought back. I love that. In the tiniest way. But you see those posts of like, I don't wear a rainbow to tell other people what my sexuality is. I wear the rainbow or the trans flag or Black Lives Matter or whatever to show other people in that community that I am a safe person to come to.
Exactly.
That if you have a trans youth that needs to get away, I'm running to the house that has all the pride flags flown all over it all year round, not just during June.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing is, he even said, he was like, I'm going to leave these up all year.
Good for him.
There's no reason I can't.
Damn.
He's like, they made it very clear to me. He was like, with everything going on in this country, they made it very clear to me that was going to be an issue, and I am not infracting on any rules, and they can't do shit.
Yeah. That's a really good example. Because I feel like a lot of people think allyship is just like being okay with gay people. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, I'm not like actively homophobic, so I'm an ally.
Yeah.
No.
No.
That's not what it is. Like if you are not in that person's corner, if you're not defending them, if you're not fighting for them, if you're not using your privilege and your voice in the way that you can and they can't when you have an opportunity, I don't think that you can consider yourself an ally. No.
You can be like, oh, but my best friend's gay.
Yeah.
Great. What are you doing to make their lives better?
Yeah. I have a couple of examples. One about, somebody who supported me when I came out, and then one about somebody who supported me when I came out as poly. So my brother is the first example of somebody who like really just from day one, like was there. He was in my corner. He was telling me like, it really, all I care about is that you're with somebody that you love and that you're with somebody that loves you. And he was just always very like safe for me. Like even when things felt very unsafe for me in every other area of my family, I knew I could go to him and tell him anything and I would get zero judgment. Like I've told him so many things that most people would not tell their brothers, but like I have this very specific relationship with him where I just know that I can.
I get it.
I also have a cousin who I want to mention them. They're non-binary, so I'll refer to them as they, them. But when they were 16 and still living under their parents' roof, they refused to go to a family Christmas that my grandparents were hosting if me and my partner were not allowed to go.
Oh, see, protest.
At 16.
Minor protest.
Can you imagine? Yeah. And this is before they came out as non-binary or they came out as queer. This was when everybody just thought they were
straight ally.
Ally, yeah. And I remember it meant so much to me because I was like, this person is willing to give up time with their family, their own Christmas, all of this to support me and a partner they had never even met at that point. Just because they knew that it was an injustice. And I did end up getting invited to that family Christmas because of them. I don't think I went, but it was more of the thought that counted.
The sentiment behind it. Yeah.
So that's how you can, I feel like it's like protest, providing a safe space. The other example I was going to give is when I came out as poly, or when my friends started to know I was in an open dynamic with a partner I had, one of my friends specifically came to me and was like, hey, I know this is new for you. And like, I'm not super like educated on this topic specifically, but I want to be. And I want to know if there's any way I can support you in exploring this dynamic. And like, she asked a bunch of questions about it. And I feel like that's something, not everybody wants to get questions, but if you're close to somebody, you usually will have that like openness with them. And I wanted questions. Like I wanted somebody to not assume. I wanted them to come to me and be like, what does this mean to you? Like, why is this important to you? Like, how do you want me to interact with you about this topic? Like that is like really showing yourself as an ally because it's showing that you care. You care.
Yeah, also, like, I'm not going to judge you for something that's deemed maybe outside of the norm, you know?
Exactly. There was no, like, reaction of, ooh, that's weird, or, like, ooh, that's different. Like, I don't really understand that, so I'm just not even going to address it.
Yeah.
She asked questions. Yeah. And she was just like, I want you to know, like, whatever you want to do and however you want to live, like, I totally support you in that.
That's really great.
It was really sweet.
Yeah.
It was the only time I think I've ever had anybody that did that for me with like being ethically non-monogamous.
You were that for me. So
oh,
I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't. That's so cute.
Like I didn't like I think I've told you this in the past that like I didn't have anybody to talk to. And then like you were like, oh well, like we can talk about it anytime you want. And like that alone was huge for me. So
good.
Oh, I love you.
I love that. I love you too. And now here we are. I love that I was like, we can talk about it anytime you want. And you were like, podcast?
We talk about it all the time.
Literally all the time, every day.
But no. And the thing is, allyship is not just like straight allies. That's the thing, is that allyship also goes within the community. Because you've got the subsections of the different letters and what they mean. Right? LGBTQIA+. Right. And I've said this a million times and I'm saying it again, the LGB doesn't exist without the T and the Q. And there are, unfortunately, so many people within the community that are anti-trans. Or the bi erasure is a big deal. Or queer, like they just, like NBs, anything like that. They just don't, they don't support it. I don't know if it's that they don't understand or that they're just not, they don't have the resources or the education, but I'm like, we're in the community. We have the resources. You just have to go find them.
You have to do a little bit of extra work.
You have to put the effort in.
Yeah, exactly.
And you may have to shift your mindset and what you grew up around, because everybody grows up differently. Because we don't all come out the womb trying to oppress anybody. No. Okay. Like we're not
unless
oppressive
you're born
babies.
like a psychopath or something.
Sure, but that's,
rare.
A weird thing. But like you don't come out into the world and go, oh, I'm going to judge this person for this specific thing. It's a learned trait, behavior, habit, whatever you want to call it. But it's something, once it's learned, it can be unlearned. You just have to be willing to deconstruct it and find the why behind why you feel a certain way.
Absolutely.
There are so many things that I've changed in my mind over the years because I had to deconstruct what I was taught growing up. And like some of that is like psychotic stuff from my mom.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Like, and it doesn't make sense. And sometimes it was like well, why am I thinking this way? Yeah. Like why when everybody else is thinking this way, why am I stuck over here thinking this way? When I went to college, that was a huge thing because I was surrounded by so many different mindsets. Not that everybody has access to university, but like the education alone and being away from the bubble that I was in and the learning environment automatically helped.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it's about exposure. I mean, I had to learn how to be an ally too for multiple different types of people. I feel like my first journey that I had with like allyship in general, even though I am a woman, was for being an ally to other women because the environment I was raised in was extremely misogynistic. So I grew up harboring a lot of internalized misogyny. Like I was taught the message like women can't do this and this is women's place. And like women, I literally was told over and over and over when I was younger, women can't be president because they're too emotional.
Every war that's ever been started has been started by a man.
I'm like, who is nuking each other again? I'm sorry. Must have missed that. But you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, sometimes even if you're in a community, you can still vote or hold ideas that are against your own interest. Yep. And like, you can not be an ally to other people in the same community. Like, there are people that I've met that are gay and they say they hate gay people. Like, I had a friend actually who, here we go.
I got a story for that.
Yeah, I have a story. Let's go. So I have a friend who told me recently that they started dating this woman, and this friend is a newly out bisexual woman. And so this was her first experience with a lesbian. And unfortunately, it was not good. This was one of those lesbians who said they hated gay people. They really only had guy friends. They don't really like hanging around women at all because there was a lot of internalized misogyny there. And they ended up leaving her on a date to go talk to a group of men that they had just met, leaving her by herself to just like sit there. And it was just like there were so many things that this person had said that you could tell they just like were not an ally to other people in the community, but not even to other like lesbians. Like there's a lot of self-hatred there.
Yeah. So it usually comes from self-hatred. That's like minus my ex actually when we were dating long time ago when I was in college, not recently. And she was like, oh yeah, I don't want to be gay. And I was like, okay. And she was like, yeah, like I actually like I hate I hate the gays. And I was like, what the
Oh
fuck?
God.
Like you are one.
You are the gays.
With one. I am one. Like, what are you talking about? Because she had been taught the whole like I don't understand why they have to like shove it in people's faces. Just existing. Like just literally just ourselves. Existing.
Yeah.
Which was a part of our relationship, the whole like non-PDA, like not even hand holding, anything like that.
Oh
Like,
God.
It was just one of those things where it was very clearly a self-hatred to the point where she had begged her parents to send her to the camps that
a conversion camp?
Yeah, conversion camps.
Oh my God.
She had like begged her parents to do that, which sad. They didn't, thank God. And now she's like very much fine with her sexuality. She's overcome a lot of whatever that was. But like there's some weird shit in there where even people in your own community can be a problem. So like you really have to take the time to unpack your shit.
Yeah.
To help others.
Yeah. I think it's like one of those things where I think we're in a space now in the community where being gay or being a lesbian is like pretty like mainstream. It's accepted for the most part. But then if you look at the other letters, right? Like bisexuality, to your point, it's erased a lot. And then a lot of the, I'll just say older generation of queer people do not understand the trans experience or people who are non-binary. They just cannot like...
Despite the fact that they've always existed.
Despite the fact
throughout history.
Yes, exactly. I mean, what were we saying earlier? Stonewall was a riot that was started by trans women of color.
Yep.
They've always been there. But I don't know that they've been accepted and adopted into the community in the way that they've ever deserved to be.
No, and unfortunately, I think we're going backwards right now.
I do too.
SCOTUS
alone,
but like in the state of Texas alone, which that this is like recent, so it could be new, but there are like 64 to my knowledge anti-trans bills that are active or already in effect.
Well, the reason this is happening is because it's the new scapegoat of the Republicans to try to build a voting block over something. That's literally all it is. But unfortunately, there are some people in the queer community who vote against their own interests and have adopted this ideology as well. And it's really hurting the community because, like, you know, you and I cannot personally relate to the trans experience.
No,
but
and we never will.
And we never will. But we can have empathy.
I can have empathy. And I'm sorry, I've been in relationships with multiple trans people. Mind you, it was prior to their transition or that they even knew that they were trans maybe. Which is so funny to me. In a lot of ways. I'm like, oh, like back when I was dating men, I was actually dating women.
You were dating women the whole time. I love that.
Isn't that crazy?
That's so gay.
And I love that. Like, I'm so gay.
That's gay.
Which I love, but the same thing is like I can't live in their shoes. I never will be able to. Just I don't expect a straight person to live in my gay ass shoes. I don't expect a vanilla person to live in my kinky ass shoes.
No, definitely not.
Like, I don't have that expectation. All I want to know is that you're there for me and you're gonna make sure that like when you're making choices or when you're going places or when you're purchasing something, you are keeping someone other than just you and your own interests in mind. Because I try to do that for you as well.
Yeah, exactly. So. I would say like dating somebody who's non-binary for the first time has opened my eyes a lot to that experience. Like I've always had a lot of space for that and like mentally and emotionally, but I've never understood it to the level that I do now, like being with somebody who feels like that way. Like when I've asked them like, you know, questions, they're like, I'm nothing and I'm everything. Like that's how it feels. Like I'm a man and woman and everything else in between. And I'm like, that's fucking beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Like that's so beautiful. And I don't know how that is something that especially other queer people like cannot accept.
Well, it blows my mind too, because like there are cultures like, I think it's like Polynesian culture where like that has always been part of it. So like I don't where did it go wrong? I don't know, but
puritanical Christianity. Yeah. That's where it went wrong. That's where it always goes wrong.
America being governed by God instead of by the people.
By women, actually. Let's just let America be governed by women for like 10 years. Whip this into shape.
Yeah, New Zealand's killing it.
They really are. Let us in. I'll be an avocado farmer.
I love New Zealand. You'll be okay, two kinds of people. You're going to be an avocado farmer. And I was like, I just want to be an elf. Lord of the Rings.
Well, okay, but the thing is, I've actually looked into moving to New Zealand for this reason, and
Yeah.
the only way you can get like a visa is if you're like a potato, or pig, or avocado farmer.
Okay.
And I was like, if I was going to be a
If you're a
farmer, which
potato-
one?
Or do you have to be a potato farmer? Because I am a potato at this present moment. Let me in.
I'm the farmer. You're my potato.
Yay,
We'll sneak
let's
it. I'll carry you in my backpack.
Oh my god.
Anyways, we derailed a little bit. The U.S. sucks. That's the moral of the story.
It's interesting though, and what I appreciate about like people that I work with or friends and stuff like that, I'm very particular about who I keep around me. And there have been some things where like it was actually absolutely heartbreaking. So like had a coworker, have always found them as an ally, found out that they voted for DeSantis. And immediately
block and delete.
Well, you can't when you're working with them.
Yeah, that's true.
But two, also like all of us who were working with this individual who knew, like in every other way is an ally.
Yeah.
And then that. So then you get into like the
voting
politics thing and what that has to do, because it's more than just human rights. It's also, you know, fiscal, economical, blah, 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 blah. We can do that on another day. But that alone was a gut punch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I have adversely a coworker that like doesn't know, like doesn't know any of like the anti-LGBT bills or anything that's being put out. She had no idea. I had a conversation with her about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I was like, it's been kind of tough because this, and this, and like it's exhausting, and it's constantly trying to fight and figure out how you can make things better and where your money can go if you have the money to spare to donate, and where you can go to protests if you feel safe enough to go to protests, because this and this are happening at the protests. And she was just like, how do you find out about any of this? Like, I don't hear about any of this, which of course for me, like my Facebook timeline, my Instagram, my TikTok is full of this stuff because I'm surrounded by that community that knows about it.
Right.
She is surrounded by a bunch of people that don't talk about it, and it's usually the other side. Yeah. So having to tell her like, oh, like, I mean, the news, but also like what news sources are good. Because I know we're in a day and age where like I don't like to look at the news for shit. No. Because it makes me angry. Yeah. But also the sources are bad. Yeah. Half the time. Like I want a good one. So
I would say like if you're looking for a very like tangible way to become an ally and learn how to become one, is like following queer creators is one. Like follow TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, like just start like surrounding yourself with people that have access to this information about like what's going on in the community. And then also voting. Like voting is just a very straightforward, easy way to support people in the community, and also other marginalized groups in general. Like really any marginalized group you can support through voting. Yeah. And what you need to do before going into voting is obviously do your research on like what politicians are putting forward what bills. Yeah. Like I'm not even going to sit here and tell you like you should only vote Democrat always. Like obviously that's what I do now, but like if
we're not going to tell you
we're not going to tell you how to vote.
You need to go do the research and learn what makes sense for you, but also for
with other people
everyone,
in mind. Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
You're never going to make everyone happy. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. But you can do your damn best. Yes. Otherwise, I guess that like with like the government stuff, like reaching out to your senators when you do find something, like if you're against something, like being able to do those, like there are templates for you. You don't even have to write the email yourself. Yeah. You can go find it. You can put in your information and you can send it off. So it's just
ChatGPT that shit.
Yeah, sure.
Do it.
Yeah. But it's they're all over. You just have to know where to look. Yeah. That I would say another good way to do it is like if you have the means, donating to certain projects, making sure that they are good organizations. So like Human Rights Campaign, you can never go wrong when it comes to LGBTQ community. Trevor Project's pretty fucking good. There are other ones like the Okra Project and stuff like that, is like helps feed like LGBT homeless and everything like that. So I always recommend looking at those. You can even like on Facebook, you are able to, you know, select a foundation that you want money to go towards. Like dedicate maybe a birthday to something like that. Yeah. Or just do it randomly throughout the year. Yeah. Buying, like actually purchasing from queer creators.
Or sharing if you don't have the means to purchase something. If you just share their content.
Yes. That is a huge way to support. Yeah. People don't realize this. Yeah. Is that just because you don't have the money, like if you have a friend that is gay and is making a podcast, if you don't have the money to like say support on Patreon or something like that, but you share it to your network and somebody else shares it to their network and somebody else shares it to their network, you've already helped them get to probably 1,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's likely that somebody in there is going to like that content.
And that's
right?
free to do.
Yeah.
So
there's a plug. Join us on Patreon or support us by sharing shit.
Share our shit.
We are your queer creators that you can support.
Show us how good of a little ally you are.
Like, go and support people in that way, whether it's sharing or leaving reviews for people is a big thing. Like, positive reviews helps bump them up.
Also, if you see something, say something, like that whole phrase. Like, if you see somebody actively being discriminated against in one way or another, even things that might seem small to you, like, you know, maybe somebody that you're friends with says something to a queer woman that's just very like reductive of like her relationship with somebody, something creepy, like fucking call them out. Like, you can be an ally by just stepping in and being like, hey, that's not cool. Like, don't say that. And like, that costs you nothing. Like, it's so, I mean, it might piss that person off that you're calling out.
That's their problem.
But that is their problem.
Yours.
Yeah.
And you've automatically made someone feel safer in that moment as well.
And those moments are the moments that get us to the point in society that we need to be at where everyone can be safer and more comfortable and more open and can just live their lives without fear of retaliation or abuse or violence. Because a lot of times what people don't realize who aren't like being persecuted in this way, they don't realize that like these things, like even words, are the things that fuel violent acts. So like, you might think like, oh, they're just, it's words, like sticks and stones, whatever. No, like the things that people say are things that turn into actions, and those actions impact people.
Entire generations have disappeared by genocide just based off of the words of one man. It's called the Holocaust.
And we have years and years and years of history to look back on, to learn from.
To back that up and learn from and be better about. I know that revolutions, it's a revolution, it's a circle, we keep doing the same thing, but like, come on, break the damn wheel.
We got to fucking break this cycle at some point.
Like after the pandemic, I like to think that we're getting back to a point where we're starting to stick up for people again, because I think personally that the pandemic isolated a lot of people.
It did.
It became something I talked to my dad about, is that like America has become this very like, we're all about individualism, but we've forgotten about the community.
Yeah.
Any community.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Like it's about,
it's every man for themselves.
People. Yeah. It's your individualism and what affects you and not somebody else. And oh, I have to vote for this because this, and this, but we forgot about this. You've also got people that like, one of the conversations I'd had with him was, he was like, I don't think the government should be making decisions on human rights because it should just be like, if you're not hurting anybody, who cares? Everybody just live their lives and everybody mind their own goddamn business. But the thing is, we do have to, because there are so many people who are willing to murder other people for the sake of it, or to take something away from them.
Right.
Well, and so I was like, but that's something you have to keep in mind when you are doing the voting or having the conversations. And like, you're going to go into family settings where one person is vehemently against it, and figuring out how to navigate those conversations and being able to stand up in those settings and say, hey, no, this is why.
Standing up in that setting is one of the most important things, like standing up to family, because a lot of times like the most harm and hurt that's caused to queer people is from their own family when it comes to their identity. Yeah. And so if you have one person in a family that is like willing to be the brave person and say, hey, this isn't okay, or like, we need to like listen, we need to empathize, like it means a lot.
Huge.
It's huge.
But also, that individual may be the only access to information or education that the other person has.
Yep.
Right? Because they may not be doing the work.
Yeah.
And sometimes all it takes is one ally to stand up and say, hey, no go.
Yeah.
For other people to go,
yeah,
well, why am I thinking this way then?
Right.
So it really does have a major impact.
I think that the moral of the story is just like the whole old idiom of like, treat others how you would want to be treated.
Yes.
Like it really is like, try your best if you're not somebody who's naturally empathetic, which a lot of people are. Some people are not. But try your best to imagine yourself living as that person. Like put yourself in their shoes and try to figure out how would you want to be treated in that scenario by others, and like how would you want you to stand up for you and do that,
and realize that what you think and feel putting yourself in those shoes probably amplify it by 100 or more, because you again will never fully know,
right.
You have to be willing to realize that like you are coming from a place of privilege, and it doesn't matter what you do, you will never be able to live that life unless you come out 20 years from now.
Yeah. And we're not saying that allyship is perfect or has to be perfect.
No.
It's never going to be perfect. And like that is never the expectation.
But even the smallest things, like the flag that I talked about, make a difference. It made a difference to me.
Yeah.
Seeing that. I already loved him. I already knew he was a great person, but that really made me go, that's somebody that I know safe. I can rely on and is safe. And if I had something I could go to.
Yeah, exactly.
Or could pull in and say, hey, we need your help with this. Can you come?
Right. How does this relate to, personally for you, to like kink and BDSM, like an ethical non-monogamy? Because I feel like that even is like still something that is just not talked about. And so it's still very taboo.
It's not talked about. So I guess what's nice about the whole non-monogamy thing right now is that it is becoming a little bit more mainstream. Just a little, not a lot, just a little baby bit. The issue is the understanding, right? And I was telling you this earlier, but more people in my life than not are like more vanilla based, or maybe they aren't and they just don't know it, right? But like they just can't comprehend me.
Yeah.
And some people go into monogamy by choice. Like it's not like when you're gay, you don't choose, you just are. Some people do it by choice for whatever reason. For me, it feels like I just am.
That's how it feels for me.
Yeah. And people that like do true like ethical and consensual non-monogamy tend to say the same thing. But there are some people who do it by choice.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Because it's sexual proclivity as opposed to sexuality, if you will. Allyship in that sense is really going to be more of an internal learning curve of non-judgment, right? Because we all judge people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are or how diverse you are.
It's human nature.
Or anything. It's human nature to judge other people for things that don't make sense to you. But the thing is, that can be unlearned again.
Yeah.
My issue is that the common themes I've gotten, which I think you've gotten too, probably, are like, oh, I could never do that. Or as simple as like, oh, I'm just really jealous. I don't know how you can be with multiple partners. Or how does your wife feel about it?
The amount of times the response automatically to me has been like, I'm just too jealous for that, is like, I literally almost like cringe like proactively when I tell somebody that, because I'm just waiting for them to say it. Like, I'm like, I just want to start responding as if I never experienced jealousy. Like, is that what you're assuming?
But it also kind of tells me about your emotional maturity level.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Is that maybe it's not jealousy. It's maybe you're actually more controlling and insecure and have issues with sharing, which is okay. You don't have to like it. But the thing is, like to your point, I get jealous all the time. Yeah. I just have to manage the emotion because it's my job to manage it. It's not my partner's. It's not their fault that I'm having a little green monster.
But that is a mind-blowing concept to a lot of people, because our society is extremely hell-bent on this idea of one person for forever.
Yes.
Like, that's how we were all raised. I know that that's probably the message you got. And like,
absolutely.
That's really hard. I think if you have a naturally like insecure or controlling or possessive personality, it would be really easy to lean into that and be like, this is just how things should be. And this is right. Yep. You're wrong. And this is right. But it's really, you only believe that because you're trying to protect your ego. And you're trying to not work through things that you probably should work through, because they're going to affect your relationship anyways.
Yep.
So
monogamy or not, you should probably get your jealousy in check.
Speaking from personal experience, they will affect your relationship regardless of if you are monogamous or not. Yeah. If you're with a person like that. And so I think like it's really important when somebody tells you something like this you treat it like you would anything else, and you just accept it and say, that's cool. And maybe you ask some questions about it, and you go into it with an open mind. That was how I knew I wanted to date my partner that I'm with now. Was our first date. I told them about being ethically non-monogamous, and they had zero judgment. They had zero like negative reaction. They were just like, interesting. Like, tell me more about that. I've never thought about it, but like,
I went on
blah,
like
blah,
a
blah.
friend date forever ago. Like, I think my wife was like, oh, it's going to be a date. And I was like, it's not an actual date. Like, it's, I literally just want to be friends with this person. And I told him, I was like, oh yeah, I'm non-monogamous. And that was the response, was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, it's not really like, that's not really a relationship dynamic that I want, which is fine. But like, tell me about like what that's like for you.
Right.
You know, and that's the response. Like, that's what I want to get. Like, I've talked about my friends in the past that when I came out, everybody was kind of like on my wife's side, quote unquote side. Not that there were sides, but like they were able to connect more with her position because she was the monogamous one and I was the one with the extra partner.
Yeah.
And it was, oh, well, you guys are going to break up when you get married, right?
Yeah.
Or, oh, I could never do that. I'm way too jealous again. Or like, oh, is your relationship ending?
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, like just support, like I'm in any other relationship that you would be supportive of.
There's no excitement either about like the new dynamic you're building with somebody, which is an exciting thing. Like, anytime you are given the opportunity to like add to your life in that way, whether it's like romantic, physical, like you're falling in love with somebody, I think that's a beautiful thing. And like, your friends should be excited about that. Yeah. Like, that is like something that should be supported. And I remember, I'm kind of just thinking about it now, like when I ended my relationship with my last partner, a big portion of the reason was because we were very wildly different people. But one of those differences was that they were monogamous and I was not. And there were a lot of friends that I felt like did the same thing, that like took her side because they were like, well, you're breaking up with her because of this, and like I really empathize with her because like how would that feel, blah 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 blah. And it got to a point where I was like scared to even come out after that relationship ended because I knew I was going to get a lot of judgment from people because I ended that relationship, even though there were so many other factors involved. It was just one of them, but like it definitely showed me who my friends were, because the people that like reacted in that way, I was like, oh, you have no understanding of like what I'm going through.
Well, it also tells me a lot about like people and what their understanding of anything is. Yes. Like, you can, just to put that in there, you can have a very successful monopoly relationship. It happens all the time. Yep. Just because maybe you have an issue with it as a monogamous person, maybe that's something you need to reflect on yourself, because it is possible.
And monopoly just means, for anybody that doesn't know, it's when one person is monogamous dating somebody who is polyamorous.
So like, more recent experience with that, and that's somebody in the queer community too, like talking to them like, hey, I think you're really cool. I'd love to get to know you. Whether that's in a platonic or non-platonic way. Yeah. And response being like, oh, well, I'm not poly.
And you're like, thank you for the information I did not ask for.
I did not ask for it. And also, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Because you're not, yes, you are not polyamorous.
I am. That doesn't mean we can't be together.
That doesn't mean we can't be together.
Yeah.
Or like, just like casually hook up.
Yeah. But there's so much that's just not understood about that, even within the queer community. And so I give that some grace, because it's like, okay, like you just don't understand how this works.
No.
At all.
No.
Which is fine, because you need to know that going into any dynamic. But it's like, there's a difference between the people that react like that and then ask questions and try to educate themselves. And like, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then the people that are like, that's weird. That's not for me. It's weird that you do that. And they're judgmental about it.
Yeah.
There's two different types of like uneducated like points of view.
Yeah. I think for people that like, even if you can't wrap your head around it, if you can't understand it, or if you think it's weird or it's outside of the box for you, we don't need your opinion on it.
Yeah.
One, if somebody tells you something that's that personal about themselves, not asking for your opinion.
No.
Not asking for your advice.
No.
When somebody tells you that, usually they think that you are somebody that they are comfortable enough to share that with.
Right.
And if you go and do that, you automatically set a bar down in front of yourself. You've created a line for yourself that we now know
100%.
You are not the person to talk to.
Yeah.
Unless you're willing to make that effort. But also like it's another like see something, say something kind of thing like that. Like if you're in an environment where somebody's saying, oh, this is weird, or like all those people are mentally unwell, or blah blah blah, like be like, no, like we're not kink shaming, and people get to do whatever the hell they want. If they're not hurting you, they're not hurting anybody else.
Right.
Who gives a flying fuck?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And there's clear delineations, obviously, between things that people are doing that are like fetishes that are harmful versus things that are not. So like,
yes,
obviously
that's the difference between healthy and unhealthy. But
right, exactly. But I think that those lines are very clearly drawn in the community. So it's like, we're not asking you to be an ally to things that are obviously harmful. No. I feel like in the straight community, a lot of times, I think there's this picture that's painted of like kinky people, queer people, people that are in this lifestyle that we accept everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, we accept everything that is between two consenting adults that is like obviously not harmful.
Yep.
And like, that is all we're asking you to be an ally to. We're not asking you to support anything that's harmful.
Yeah. We're not asking you to go frequent the sex clubs.
No.
And
you don't even have to like do anything. Of the things. Literally anything.
Don't have to do anything other than just be supportive
Just be supportive. Yeah.
And say I love you, and that's that.
Yeah.
You don't have to understand what we're doing.
No.
You don't even have to like it.
You don't even have to know.
Yeah. You don't have to know anything.
No.
If you want to know, like ask us the question.
Right.
Like we'll tell you whether or not we feel comfortable talking about it. But like, man.
Yeah. It's very difficult, I think, for a lot of people because a lot of people don't like change or like newness. And I think that especially, I feel like in our parents' generation, I don't know what fucking happened to them. I don't know what happened in the 80s and 70s, whatever. They are very like averse to change and like new things. And just in general, there's like this kind of dynamic within that like group. I guess it's the boomers and then their kids.
Yeah.
That like I have at least noticed growing up in the South that it's like anything new is dangerous. Anything different is dangerous. Anything that is like not within something I understand or can relate to, I don't even try to empathize with it. I just push it away because dangerous.
There are two statements that irk me. One is, that's just how I am.
Ugh.
And the other is, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Hate that. I hate that.
Right.
And I hate the ideology that people cannot change because it's such bullshit. It's such a cop out.
That's what you're supposed to do as a human.
Yes.
Evolve. Constantly. Throughout your entire life. It doesn't stop. You don't hit 65 and you're just done.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. No.
Just like you don't hit 20 and you're like, oh, that's just who I am as a human. Like you are actively learning and changing.
Yeah.
Who I am now, if you had told me 7 years ago that who I am now is who I am, I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah.
I probably would have gotten into an argument with you about it.
Yeah.
Because I would not have agreed with most of it. Because I was in a bubble at that point and I hadn't had the exposure or the education, and I didn't have the community or environment around me.
Oh, yeah. My mindset on so many things has changed so much just in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Like so many things to the point that like I look back on pictures of myself from like that timeline and I look back and I'm like, holy shit, that was a different person.
Yeah.
I've changed so much. And I feel like that's what you're meant to do as a human. Like the more information that you get, the more you educate yourself, the more you learn, you're supposed to like let that form you into a better version of yourself continuously.
Yeah.
And like the people that can do that are like amazing people to be around.
Yeah.
The people that cannot do that, it's a little tougher.
It is a little tougher. And not everybody's going to be an ally, unfortunately.
No.
I would say for anybody who's listening to this and you're like, how can I, you may already be a wonderful ally. You may be one of them.
If you're listening to this, chances are you probably are an ally in some way, shape, or form.
Maybe not. Who knows? But take a moment to do some self-reflection and figure out whether or not you are being a silent ally or a performative ally. Because just being like, happy Pride Month is not being an ally.
Yeah.
It's helpful. It's nice to know. But like there are other steps that you can take, and we've shared some of them here. We will share some resources as well for you all, both on our Instagram and in the bio on any platform that you're listening to this. Take a moment to self-reflect and figure out which one you are. Mm-hmm. And if you're like, okay, I'm doing these things, continue, please. Because that's the best thing that you can do. Continue to educate others if you have the ability. Yeah. Please. Because it's tough when it always falls on us to educate everyone. Yeah. There's so many people that are like, oh, I don't want to ask you because like I feel like I'm adding a burden onto you. But like then they never actually go do the work. Do the work on your own. Yeah. And if you have questions about it, then come to us instead of making us do all the legwork. Right. As the community. Most of us are willing to do the education because we need people. Yeah. We need you.
We need people.
Okay. Yeah. Like the only way we continue to have our rights and to push things forward and to make things better for the generations below us. Because honestly, that's what I care about. Yeah. Is how can I make it better for somebody coming up behind me? Because man, I could have used this, and this when I was a kid. And I'm so glad they have it now. And the thing is, let's make it even better. Yeah. I agree. I'd love to live in a world where there is no coming out. Nobody cares. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that will ever exist. Mm-hmm. I really hope it does. I don't think it'll be in our lifetime. Yeah. But I want that to be able to be in existence. And that sounds like such a hippy dippy thing of me. But like, who wouldn't want to live in a world that's just gentle
people just exist
and actually care about other human beings?
Yeah. That's what I was going to say is like being an ally, we're not asking you to do this necessarily for us. It is just better for every single human that exists on the planet. Like, it will positively impact your own life if you are an ally too, because what you're doing is you're contributing positive energy to the world. And like that will come back to you in some way, shape, or form. I like truly believe that energy is a thing, even if you don't, even if that's too hippie for you. The second you like put yourself out there for somebody else, you have made like a connection and a bond with that person where like you're going to get that back, right? In another way. Like they're going to support you too. So it's not something that we're asking even selfishly. We're asking it for the greater fucking good. Yeah.
Buzzinga. With that, we love you all. Spicy trauma. Every week, we end every episode with a segment called Spicy Trauma, and we want you to send us yours. Please. We want to laugh. We want to be flabbergasted. We want to be absolutely shooketh by your spicy trauma. So send us your stuff. DM us. You can also find the link in our bio to send us some information. It'll be anonymous. So send that. But do you want to start or you want me to start?
I feel like I always start. I'll start. You start.
So my spicy trauma. It's not super, super spicy. It's just kind of like, wow. So I've been in the gym a lot.
Yeah. You've been killing it.
I love it. I love working out, which sidebar, I don't know about you, but working out absolutely turns me on every single time.
Oh, 1,000%.
Specifically leg day. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I just crushed leg day. Now I want to crush somebody's head with these
the legs.
Thunder thighs.
Yes. Yeah. Working out is great for sex drive.
Yes.
Boosts testosterone, boosts endorphins, and to get your blood flowing.
Yeah. And for anybody who's into the BDSM world, stamina is a very, very important piece. The act of health and also staying hydrated. So those are all things my doms have always been like, if you don't do this, we're going to have a problem. Yeah. And they were right. You can't have that in writing, but you have it on video now. So damn it.
For any future doms.
So I've been at the gym a lot. Right. And I've had a couple instances. The other one was a couple days ago. I don't know what's wrong with men. I'm worried about the men.
I'm slightly worried.
I'm very worried.
I'm worried for many reasons, but yes.
One, this guy, the other guy was okay. This guy gets on a hamstring curl machine.
Okay.
And is like hip thrusting. I shit like on it. like hip thrusting and like barely actually lifting the hamstring part. He's literally just like flopping his dick in the air because like it was not strapped down. There was no dance belt in sight. It was just free.
You saw things you didn't ever need to know.
Yeah. Well, it's flopping around, and my wife and I are working out, and I like turn to her, and I look at her, and I go, "What the fuck is going on behind me?" And like point behind me because he's directly behind me, and she looks, and she was like,
She's like, the exorcism of Emily Rose?
True.
Is that you?
But not only is he like hip thrusting, he is moaning as he does this. And there are several of us on machines all around him, and he is like making eye contact with each of us. And it's not just like, we're not the only like women, there are other women, but like there are men, and he's just like making eye contact with all of us. And we're all just kind of like looking at each other. And he did like 6 sets of this.
What the fuck?
Didn't flinch.
Did it feel like it was like a sexual thing?
No.
Okay.
I think he actually thought he had good form.
Oh. How do you tell him he looks like a tilapia about to be filleted?
So that was one.
Okay. Well,
another one that I really enjoyed that really caught me off guard.
Okay.
I love, so again, leg day. I love kickbacks.
Yeah.
And I bought myself ankle straps, which if you've ever used fitness ankle straps, they're very reminiscent of restraints. Which I also love. And I'm just minding my own business, doing my leg day, doing my thing, get my sets in, get my reps in, listen to my angry music, as I do.
As you do.
As I do. And this man comes up to me. He's very nice, very respectful. Comes up to me and taps me on the shoulder. So I have to pause my music. I'm looking at him because I thought he like maybe wants to work in or wants my spot. Oh my gosh. Wants my spot when I'm done with it. And he comes up and he goes, "Wow, you're really good at clipping yourself into this machine. How did you get so good at it?"
Ooh. You were like, how much time do you have?
Well, I'm sitting here like, okay, is this man hitting on me? Or like, is he somebody that actually like has a hard time clipping in on his own?
It was an earnest question.
It really did like, I did not feel like he was hitting on me. Like it didn't feel weird. Like I could usually pick up on that. And it wasn't like a weird, like, like, and I just had to stop for a second. Cause I forget that not everybody has 5 100s on their BDSM test list like we do. So most people that I know don't even have one. So I'm standing there and this guy's like, "Oh, how'd you get so good at it?" And I like, I'm just like, and I'm trying not to bust out laughing.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I can debate between like, oh, I'm like a slut. And I said, "Oh, I just have a lot of practice."
You just left it at that.
And he was like, "Cool." And I was like, "Cool."
Oh my God.
And I finished my rep and I left immediately. We locked eyes in that moment when I said, "Oh, I just have a lot of practice." And like, of course, there's probably like a glint in my eye that's like
a little evil. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of practice, sir. Yeah. And he just kind of looked at me and was like,
he's like, Am I reading this correctly? Am I picking up what you're putting down?
Cool. But also, like, that's a random question to come up to somebody in the gym.
I mean,
how'd you get so good at clipping yourself into the machine?
The way even that he phrased it is like, I feel like there might have been something there. Yeah. Maybe a little bit. But I love the fact that you know how like there's like the gay panic term. You like BDSM panicked.
I did.
You were like,
I did. Well, because like kink is not a mainstream thing, and it's not something that I bring up in the gym. Like, oh yeah, I just really like to like have my ankles restrained and be railed. Like, where's the spreader bar, buddy? Like I could use like the straight bar and the clips and just have a spreader bar. Let's go. Like,
I would like for you to say that, but record the reaction.
Oh Jesus,
just to see, and then we'll follow up with it on Patreon.
But yeah, so that's been my spicy trauma for the past, like, that was like all this last week.
Okay. Wow.
I didn't know it was, I think it was the supermoon.
Yeah, it was the supermoon.
The men are unhinged.
Always, though. The moon has no effect on the men.
Yeah, that's true.
The only thing that has effect on the men are the men. That's it. Yeah. So speaking of men, I have a really fun spicy trauma story, and I've been looking forward to telling this to you all day because I realized I don't think I've told you this story.
Yes.
Okay. So this is me in demon era, right? I was, I mean, always in demon era, but I was
like man torture era.
No. In like
that was a different era. She has lots of eras.
Well, this was man torture era, but me me as an out lesbian in like straight bars. This was last year.
Oh.
But like, no, maybe it was earlier this year. It was recently. Okay. Within the last year. But this was when I was actively out dating. Right. Okay. So I went to this bar with a friend, and at the time she was engaged. So we went with her fiance and then another straight couple. And like, of course, I'm with like 4 straight people. And the friend is bisexual now, but she hadn't come out yet. So they want to go to a straight bar. And I warned them before. And I'm like, guys, like, I don't really go to straight bars anymore. And I haven't in like 3 years. And so if you're going to take me to a straight bar, you have to be prepared for the consequences.
You have to buy all my drinks.
Like, I'm going to fuck some shit up. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know some shit's going to get fucked. So they're like, oh, yeah, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, they don't believe me. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we go to this bar, and we get a table. I go up to the bar immediately to get me and my friend a drink. And I feel 2 arms come up behind me, one on one side of me, one on the other. And I'm like, here we fucking go. Like, it's already happening. I don't even have a drink. Human? Yes.
Ew.
So this man came up behind me and is literally like hovering over me behind me. And I turn around, and he's tall. He's probably like 6'3". So I'm just kind of looking up at him, and I said, excuse me. And he moves away, and he's like, oh, sorry. Like, acting like he didn't see me there. I'm like, I'm literally like, right. Like, your body is basically pressed up against mine.
I'm a human made of like actual matter.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. I'm here. I'm here. So I back up, and I tell my friend, I'm like, can you get my drink? Because she's at the other side of the bar. And so she goes up to order away from this guy. And I'm just standing there watching her. And then this other guy from this table right beside me comes up to me. And have you ever seen a dude that just looks like a finance bro? Like, you can just tell that they're in finance. And like, they're like watching the stock market and like sweating over it like every morning. Like, they look greasy because they're just so nervous about like what's happening with the stock market. Okay. So one of those type of men came up to me. He's got this like slicked back brown hair, and his shirt is unbuttoned like 1 button too low. And I'm like, here we go. He's also like 5'2". Very small man. And so I'm like looking down at him, and he's like,
so we've got like the very tall,
yeah,
the very small.
And then the very small man. And his first comment to me is, damn, you're the hottest girl I've ever seen. They don't make them like you in Houston. All the women in Houston are whales. So he proceeds
to great pickup line. Take note.
He proceeds to body shame other women to try to hit on me. And I look at him and I said, did you just try to body shame other women as an attempt to make me like you? And he goes, it's just a fact. That's just how it is. He was like, I mean, it's not like a big deal, but it's just, they're not my type. You are. And I can't get another word out before my friend like sees me, and she's like, she looks at me like, oh God, you need a rescue. So she comes up to me, and like, she's not super experienced with these situations of like women being with women. So like, her automatic response is to put her arm around me and be like, we're dating, leave her alone.
Oh boy.
And in my head, I'm like,
don't
just
do
made
that.
It worse.
You just made it a fetish.
You just made it worse. And so I'm like, okay, how do we get out of this? I'm going to fuck with these guys because they're obviously fucking with me, and like, I'm not going to take it. And so he was like, had the response you expect. He's like, oh, y'all are together? That's cool. Like, I'm down with the lesbians. I like, you know, me and my friend up there, you know, we like kind of like made out on as a joke in college, but like no homo. And I look at him, I'm like, that friend right there, it's the guy that was standing behind me. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So I walk over to the guy at the bar. I grab him by the belt loop and I drag him over to his friend. And he's just like, what's going on? And I was like, your friend just told me that y'all would make, or I said, your friend just told me that if we make out, y'all would make out. And he was like, no. And his friend was like, would y'all really do that? And I was like, yeah, if y'all make out, we'll make out. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I promise. And mind you, we're in the middle of a straight bar. Middle of a straight bar.
She's lying.
These guys don't know who they're fucking with. So I'm like, do it. And they're like, okay, if you swear They go in for it with each other. For like 10 seconds, they are tongue and everything making out with each other. I look at my friend and I'm like, they've been waiting to do this for years.
Yes.
Like ever since
that
college.
Was some, like long-term sexual tension that wasn't getting taken care of.
I'm like, interesting. So I'm just standing back watching them with my arms crossed. And they like get done. And the rest of their table that they were with are watching them too. And everybody in the bar has seen them make out. So they look at us expectantly and they're like, all right. And I just look at them both and I go, no. And we walk away and they start screaming at us.
I bet.
And they're like, fuck you. You're such a fucking cunt. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, I am a cunt because you are. And we just walked away.
That's fired. I love it.
And it was so funny because they had a girl with them at the table and she was also pissed. And I was like, are y'all all closeted homosexuals? She wanted us to make out. She wanted to watch and they wanted to make out with each other. And I was just like, it's so funny. Like when you turn the tables on people like that, you're just like,
You really see true colors come out.
You really see true colors. But I literally looked at my friend and I was like, we're done for the night. Like,
this is why you shouldn't take me to straight bars anymore.
I literally, my friend's fiance came up and was like, what the fuck did y'all do? And I was like, don't worry about it.
No.
I was like, but you should probably take us home soon.
I will say, anybody who's listening, when it comes to the allyship thing, though, is that we've had a couple of stories now of us in straight bars with men and people just standing by and letting it happen.
Oh, 1,000%.
Speak the fuck up.
Yeah. Say something.
Say something. Or we're tired of dealing with it.
We will be unhinged and do what I did.
And make people make out with each other.
But I look back on that moment as just like, it's just such a fond memory now.
It's a fond memory.
Yeah.
It's a fond memory of mine. I wasn't even there.
I know. I wish you had been there. You'll probably see me do it again. Don't worry. It's my
unfortunately
favorite party trick.
So are we just going to straight bars now to fuck shit up?
To fuck with the men.
Oh boy.
No, it's okay. They have enough going on.
They do.
They don't need us.
Oh my God. But with that, thank you for joining us on another episode of Trauma Bondage. We love the fuck out of you guys. Go forth and have a spicy, traumatic-filled day, week, life.
Be good.
Or don't.
We won't.
Ever.
At all. Love ya.
If you like today's episode, follow us on social media at Trauma Bondage Pod. Follow Beth at Dancing Gemini and at Bethany Nicole, and Brigitte at Your Fave Femme. If voyeurism is your kink, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Trauma Bondage Podcast, and subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/traumabondagepod.
We have several tiers with bonus content, access to our private Discord server, merch, and other titillating perks. If you know, you know. Production by Wolfstar. Special thanks to Details by Annalise for set design, D. Dumpy for music, and Noelle's art for artwork.